Welcome back. All right, so coming off of my mock draft, which has been mocked, I want to talk about rankings and draft rankings and all that. And yes, in my draft, my mock draft, I went off the board a couple of times because it depends on which board you're reading as to whether or not I really went off the board. So I wanted to talk about various draft rankings, starting with elite prospects on the left, hockey prospect. Bob McKenzie, of course, retired from TSN, but he comes in, talks about this kind of thing. Corey Pronman of The Athletic, McKean's, Craig Button of TSN, and Ryan Kennedy of the Hockey News. So I went with some different ones than I normally do, just for these lists and just to talk about where consensus is. And there isn't really a consensus, and that's part of the reason why I did the draft the way I did. I thought, you know what, I'm going to have fun with it. And you know what? I think these guys are going to go here, and I think these guys could go here, and we'll see, right? So that's kind of the fun of it. And honestly, there are going to be surprises on draft day. I fully expect some surprises and some guys to drop that we don't expect, some guys to go higher than we expect as well. And the why is what I want to talk about as well. So at number one is Bedard. All the way across the board, it's Bedard. Surprise, surprise. We'll act surprised. Not really. None of us are surprised. The number two spot, there's a little bit of a surprise. Hockey Prospect is higher on Leo Carlsson than they are on Adam Fantilli. Fantilli is number three on their list. Carlson's number two. And all the way across the board, Fantilli and Carlsson are some combination of the two, in that Hockey Prospect hasn't flipped. But it's a combination of those two in the 2-3 spot, except The Athletic. Corey Pronman has Michkov at third. And Carlsson at fourth. Now, if Columbus drafted Michkov at third, there's a lot of risk to that, but honestly, I don't know that it qualifies as a reach. Again, this year's draft, there's a lot of really good players in it. It's seen that, it should be Bedard, Fantilli, Carlsson. Maybe Carlsson goes before Fantilli, but likely not. But yeah, Michkov could slide into that third spot. And then in fourth, Michkov, and then Michkov's fifth on Bob McKenzie's list. He's third on Pronman's, as I said. Fifth on McKean's, fourth on Craig Button's list, and fourth on Ryan Kennedy's. And it feels like this is where Will Smith becomes the likeliest pick at 5. However, Elite Prospects has Will Smith at 7. They're not as sold on him as others, and neither's Hockey Prospect that has Will Smith at 8. So again, we could see some surprises and some questions of why is Will Smith dropping. It depends on what the teams who are doing the drafting think of each player, right? Number 4, Bob McKenzie has Smith there. 5 on Pronman's list for Will Smith. 4th on McKean's. 5th on Craig Button's list. And Ryan Kennedy also has him at 5th. So Will Smith should go in the top 5, but there's a couple of lists here where he's not quite in the top 5. Number 6, and this is where things get kind of crazy. So Ryan Leonard at 6, right, for Elite Prospects. However, he is 11 on 2 different lists on Hockey Prospect and Corey Pronman. So yesterday I noticed right away people going, well, the only reason that Leonard would go at 11 is because he's a Canucks fan. Well, then that makes Hockey Prospect and Corey Pronman both Canuck fans. And I can assure you, Hockey Prospect, not Canuck fans. But at any rate, Leonard at 11 or at 6. And then he's 6th on Bob McKenzie's list. He's actually 8th on McKean's list, 7th on Craig Button's list, and 7th on Kennedy's. So yeah, that's where the whole consensus part kind of falls apart. So then you get down to Oliver Moore. Moore's 8th on Elite Prospects list. He is 25th on Hockey Prospects list. Yeah, so Oliver Moore, he could go anywhere. He's 13th on Bob McKenzie's list. Moore is not on Corey Pronman's top 16. Moore is number 11 for McKean's. He is number 18 for Craig Button. And Moore is number 11 for Ryan Kennedy. So depending on which one you follow, depending on which ones you follow, depending on which scouting reports you look at, either he could be a top 6 forward quickly and he looks like he could be a star, or he's pretty good, but we think there's a lot of guys who are better than him or maybe more ready, right? So then with Elite Prospects, Reinbacher is number 9 on their list here. He's number 13 on Hockey Prospect. He's 8th on Bob McKenzie's list. Corey Pronman has him at 6th. So Pronman's very high on Reinbacher. Reinbacher, 16th on McKean's list. He is 8th on Craig Button's list, as well as 9th on Ryan Kennedy's list. And of course, he will be very likely the top defenseman taken. It'd be kind of a shocker if Simichev got the got that spot in the draft instead. Easy for me to say. But Simichev, number 10 on the Elite Prospects list, and he's number 5 on Elite Prospects. So the red asterisk is for players that are much higher on one list than others, or just kind of a surprise, where I have Michkov with the asterisk there. But Simichev is number 5 on Hockey Prospects list, and normally they know things that are going on. They called Moritz Seider going earlier in the draft than anybody else did. So I do give them some credit for that, right? And then you'll see Simichev is not in the top 16 for Bob McKenzie. And then he's number 10 on the Corey Pronman list. He's number 9 on McKean's list. He is not present on the list for Craig Button in the top 16. For Ryan Kennedy, he's not there. So again, could he be top 10? Absolutely. Could he fall outside the top 16? Absolutely. And I love this draft. Dvorski's number 11 on the Elite Prospects list. He is number 10 on the Hockey Prospect list. He's number 7 on Bob McKenzie's list. He is number 8 on Corey Pronman's, number 7 on McKean's. He is number 11 on the... He's 12th on Craig Button's list. And he is 6th on Ryan Kennedy's. So 6th, 11th, 12th. Again, it's great with this, right? Number 12 on the Elite Prospects list is Musty. Musty does not show up on the board for other teams. I don't think he's top 16 anywhere else. The rankings are all over the place with Musty. I've seen some lists where he's late first round, early second round. Sachin's number 13 on their list. Now, I will say this for Elite Prospects. Since they released their book, I do not have access to that book because I still haven't been able to get the payment to go through. There's the possibility this list is not the final list, that the final list is in the book, and maybe Sachin dropped off. Because I haven't seen him anywhere else, and I've seen him in the mid-40s on some of the draft lists. And then there's Ritchie. Callum Ritchie's number 14 on the Elite Prospects list. Does not show up here. I don't believe he shows up. Nope, he's not there. Ritchie is... I thought he was on one of the other lists, but apparently not. Then there's Sandin Palika. There's some divided opinions on this one as well. He's not in the top 16 for Hockey Prospect. He's number 14 on Bob McKenzie's list. He's not on Corey Pronman's list. He is number 14 on McKean's list. He's actually in the top 10 for Craig Button. Button has him at number 10. And then he's number 14 on Ryan Kennedy's list as well. So again, could he go high up? Yes. And again, it feels like he's going to end up being a Canuck at some point. But we'll see. Just the name, and just he's Swedish. And sure, add him to the Canucks blue line. Why not? And then it ends out with Matthew Wood on the Elite Prospects list. Wood is number 14 on the Hockey Prospect list. He's number 11 on Bob McKenzie's, number 14 on Corey Pronman's, number 10 on McKean's list. He's actually number 6 on Craig Button's list. Button is much higher on Wood than anybody else. And Ryan Kennedy is number 6, has Wood at 16th. So you've got these guys at Elite Prospects and going through where they're ranked. But what's interesting to me is Barlow. Barlow's the one that interests me because his game. It's prototypical power forward NHL. And there were a couple of different scouting reports I read that said there is no way he doesn't go in the top 10. There's zero chance this guy doesn't go in the top 10 because he's a power forward. He's ready for the NHL right now. So Barlow is number 6 on Hockey Prospects list. He's number 12 on Bob McKenzie's list. Barlow is also number 12 on McKean's list. He's actually number 9 on Craig Button's list. And he shows up at 13 on Ryan Kennedy's list. So Barlow is top 10 for both Hockey Prospect as well as Craig Button. And he's not far outside the top 10 on a couple of other lists. So I do think Barlow could be that surprise, the guy who ends up being drafted higher than expected. But it could be Daniil Boot as well. He's number 7 on Hockey Prospects list. He's number 9 on Corey Pronman's. Number 15 on McKean's list. And that's where he is. He's number 24 on Elite Prospects list for anybody curious. But it's going to be interesting too because then you got Gabe Perreault. Right? Perreault's not top 16 on this list for Elite Prospects. He's number 9 on Hockey Prospect, number 10 on Bob McKenzie's list, number 12 on Corey Pronman's. Perreault does not end up in the top 16 for McKean's list. And Perreault is 15 on Button's list. Perreault does not show up on Ryan Kennedy's list either. Kennedy also has Simichev at 30, and Simichev, of course, being number 5 on the list for Hockey Prospect, where they have more at 25. Bonk is number 28 on Mackenzie's list, even though he's 16th on the list for Hockey Prospect. Bonk doesn't show up on the other lists. Sandine Pellikka is number 22 on Pronman's list. Sachin is 41 on McKean's list. Again, Sachin's 13th on Elite Prospects. The Simichev at 30 does kind of stand out. You've got Danielson. Nate Danielson's number 16 on Mackenzie's list. Danielson shows up at 13 on the list for McKean's, and he ends up at 16th on Craig Button's list as well. This draft is really wide open. So what I love about this time of year is that everybody becomes experts on the draft. And it's my favorite thing, and don't anybody change. People take all these notes and all these picks, and this guy's going here and this guy's going here. Well, I'm convinced this guy's getting taken by this team. And then on draft day, there are always surprises in the first round. And I think with how deep this draft is and how differing opinions are when you look at scouts, and with Elite Prospects, I know this is a combined ranking of numerous people and scouts. Same with Hockey Prospect. You have a lot of people in on this. So Mackenzie's list is Mackenzie's. Pronman, Button, Kennedy, those are their lists. I believe McKean's is sort of a group effort as well. But yeah, it is interesting because you can get these groups and they will not agree, one group to another, on who should go where in the draft. And that's the beauty of this year's draft. Because there are going to be steals. And I really think Gabe Perreault is one that's been a riser, and I think he could end up being a steal out of this draft. But we'll see. That's the fun thing about the draft, is that we don't know. These kids are all 17, 18. In some cases, they might be overagers, 19. But we don't know. We have no idea who's going to be a star and who isn't. We can only guess, and that is the wonderful thing about hockey and about the draft, and I love it, and can't wait to cover this on Wednesday and find out who goes where. But I wanted to do the lists, and I wanted to talk about it in at least a little bit of depth and get into how, a lot of these, and I know the word experts gets thrown around, but if you want to call them that, you can. They disagree on who should go where. But that's where things are going to be interesting, and I can't wait to watch. So let me know your picks. And here's the thing. Let me know who you think will be the steal of this year's draft that people aren't talking about. And, yep, because I know people are going to do it anyways, who busts? Who's going to be the bust out of this year's draft? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.